Hey, welcome all. If it's your first time here, then you just caught me in the middle of a Mega Man marathon, one involving the fearless Blue Bomber. And next up just so happens to be Mega Man 3 on the Game Boy, a sort of midway point for the classic handheld saga. To be honest with you all, this is the entry I was least familiar with growing up. I didn't own it, nor knew anyone who did. In fact, it's one entry I've never had a single soul recommend. And after witnessing it firsthand, I can sort of see why. It's easily the most challenging of the 5 installments, chock full of questionable design choices. However, if you take a step back and look at the series as a whole, there may be justification for it. So while midway through this marathon, I find it only suiting we tear it down to the very core, like a mad scientist would upon analysis of a robot master. So let's not waste too much time on the surface here, because from the gameplay to the very story itself, there's plenty of moving pieces that need to be addressed in order to solve this equation today. So it's officially time to jump on into Chapter 3 of this 5-parter on our journey across our Blue Bomber's earliest handheld adventures with Rockman World 3. The story of Mega Man 3 can be somewhat confusing, as a good portion of the events differs across region, along with detailed lore bits spread across the various source material. So I'll do my best to piece together these conflicting events to the best of my ability. With that said, our story opens to Dr. Light, who has recently received multiple reports of cyber warfare, a security breach on the global scale. Someone has managed to tamper with the world's supercomputers, jamming their radio frequencies and overriding their servers. To make matters worse, an army of robots have recently gone rogue across the world stage, adding an extra layer of fuel to this fire. So essentially a Skynet story, right? Where robots take over the globe. Sounds like something we're currently dealing with, but nevertheless, we got a good sense who's puppeteering this attack behind the scenes, and it all points to one man. Speaking of you-know-who, our stateside story finds Wily pulling a similar page from the playbook of Dr. Robotnik, setting up shop in an unspecified location on the seafloor, vast at work creating his very own oil ocean, using this new platform to extract the very energy from the Earth's core, and dispatching this latest batch of robot masters to grant him enough time to put these plans in motion. These two stories may very well go hand in hand, as in-game events unfold in such a way that makes them feel connected, as if two chapters of one story. With Light on the case, he gets a lead on Wily's whereabouts, dispatching our Blue Bomber once more, whom is accompanied by Rush and the latest addition to the team, Flip Top, to scope things out a bit further. Yo, Flip Top? That's wild. How you gonna do my guy Eddie like that? So, what's changed and what stayed the same since our last stint across the Game Boy? Well, in order to figure this out, we gotta go to the source, because there's only one man that has the answers we seek, that being the father of Mega Man himself. Who, Dr. Light? No, not his father figure, the one running the shots over at Capcom. Shortly after the so-called disappointing release of Rockman World 2, Inafune called up Old Minaguchi Engineering, the team responsible for the original release of Dr. Wily's Revenge, looking to make amends. With the two camps reuniting, the duo would go to work on our third installment of the Rockman World series to reignite that passion from their very first go-around. I'm assuming talks with Inafune went sorta like, hey look, just make the opposite of whatever Mega Man 2 was, got it? Because it appears they did so by any means, cranking up the absurdity to the max. Because, for those who haven't played this, it's easily the most painful of the Rockman World titles. Difficulty aside, Mega Man 3 brings a few quality of life additions to the mix this time around that can help take the edge off, if just for a bit. For starters, that oh-so-satisfying charge shot debuts in handheld form, granting me a brand new way to tackle these stages. For me, this simple addition adds just enough gameplay variety to give our handheld entry some much-needed value when deciding to commit to a playthrough of this, thus allowing you to switch up your offense with a unique strategic blend so you can march to the beat of your own drum. It's essentially the signature move that all the best heroes eventually discover, that distinguishes them from the rest of the cast. Let's be real here, this is Mega Man 3 on the Game Boy. so it's only powerful enough to keep your head above water, because you typically would be dead to rights otherwise. The charge shot grants you an extra degree of spatial awareness, with a bit more room to maneuver past obstacles, using that charge blast as a stand-in shield of sorts to protect you from an oncoming assault. It's also the great equalizer in boss battles, which will often need to be taken out sooner than you typically would. You won't have too much wriggle room to sneak past them throughout the exchange, and in most scenarios, it's gonna be a brawl for all with them, trading blows back and forth, with the victor decided more often by sheer knockout power. If you find you're beginning to overheat from the sheer amount of damage taken in from the onslaught, just know you got a friend in old Flip Top whom drops in from time to time to aid you throughout with various health pickups to keep you pushing ahead. I can't tell you how many times Eddie's gotten me out of a bind, so his contributions don't go without notice. So Eddie, if you're listening, little buddy, I appreciate your services. Oh, and don't think I forgot about you either, Rush. The more the merrier, like old Vinny Diesel taught us long ago. It's all about family, and we gotta stick together here on out, because you're gonna need all the help you can get. There's something magical about the classic series from this moment forward. For me personally, it's a combination of the charge and slide that makes this series so fun, and why I always say Mega Man 4 through 6 are some of my most played Nintendo games of all time. Not just for the NES, you heard correctly, most played Nintendo games of all time. It's the secret sauce that adds some much needed flavor to this rather bland entry, stifled by its odd choice of enemies and object placement. However, regardless of these shortcomings, Mega Man 3 still looks fantastic. I can't lie, it's nice to have the OG team back at the helm, because there's no denying their body of work. The updated sprite work looks fantastic, and the added color of the DX palette exploits the higher production values. Well, if we can get away with calling them that. In this case, you get my drift. Although it seems like we're in the experimental phase here, it feels like we are finally on the right track with the Rockman World titles. It's not perfect by any means, but you begin to see their contributions across each new installment. After putting down Wily's latest batch of Robot Masters, you arrive back to the old Boneyard. I gotta say, Wily's castle looks mighty impressive, standing tall under one hell of a dark and stormy night. However, it's what's on the inside that makes it a real fright. Still, even with those painfully unapologetic pitfalls at every turn, the new enemy designs you encounter throughout are the real highlight, giving those familiar foes some well-deserved updates. It's really a shame we didn't see the classic entries translate over to the 16-bit handheld era. Well, with 4 more Robot Masters on the horizon, there's no time for wishful thinking, especially due to the platform mastery required to reach them. Perhaps some games are best left in the past. This game just reeks of manufactured madness, artificially creating a challenge that I don't recall anybody asking for. World 3 is the absolute poster child for this, which brings me back to my point I was making prior. There's a stark difference between the challenge that comes by the confines of hardware limitations. Hell, Mega Man 1 has some wacky physics that needed to be built upon. There's also the challenge that you, the player, are met with when learning a specific sequence or trials that is only overcome by mastery of the objective. This may be learning a distinct pattern or series of problems which needed to be solved for progression. However, when it comes to incorporating these rules into level design, they can absolutely make or break an experience when incorporating them in, especially when you're given the green light to spam the hell out of various assets to stretch things out. That wasn't the case so much with Dr. Wily's Revenge. Hard, yes, but outside limiting checkpoints, it was still well paced with a halfway decent learning curve. Here the spike beds and pitfalls feel like you literally unlocked the debug menu and then proceeded to hand the controls off to a 10-year-old, only to create their very own Kaizo Mario hell. The Robot Masters are somewhat doable here, especially with the charge shot, but still, the whole package just feels fishy to me, like having an opponent who uses every dirty trick in the book to gain the upper hand. It's gonna take you far longer to overcome their dirty play, but you eventually do. Unfortunately, it just costs you far more energy in the long run. With that in mind, I still prefer the more simplified approach of Rockman World 2, because the extreme opposite is far too taxing. With a bit of tweaking, this would have made for a delightful playthrough. Again, if you were to look at this strictly from an evolutionary standpoint, then it's a win. Hey, at least here, they didn't just strip away the previous upgrades. Imagine waking up one morning and forgetting how to slide, or even worse, how to swim. You go for a dip and instantly regret it. You know, I really wish it didn't take 8 Mega Man entries to do so. I sure could use a frog suit here. I must have had a different trilogy on the mind. Well, at least that nightmare's over. So, now that we're dried off, it's probably a good time to return to the castle, as it appears to have gone through a few renovations since our most recent stay. Well, we'll soon discover who's been doing the castle demo. Meet Punk, whom isn't just your standard Mega Man killer. He's a straight up weapon of war, armed to the gills with enough meat cleavers to execute a perfect assassination. Once he deploys into the battlefield, he'll be good and ready to carve out his mark here. Don't ask me why, but this dude just screams Mecha Sonic vibes, especially the way he tears throughout the castle walls, like a damn buzzsaw. He's got his own variation of this supersonic spin dash. Hey, maybe they just said, instead of Mega Man 3, let's just give him Sonic 3. Well, without the loops. Speaking of threes, the dude makes the Gamma fight feel like small potatoes. Just be prepared to slide beneath or up and over him, because the moment he peels out, you gotta commit or be ready to pay the price. He catches varying degrees of airtime, so keep back, way back. That way you can read this killer's body language. In time, he will reach back into his bag once again to catch you off guard. Even if you're slick enough to evade his spin slash, his screw attacks will inevitably do the bulk of the damage here, thrown in succession to rip you to shreds. However, the one thing Wily didn't account for was that brand new Buster upgrade of yours, dealing you a counterattack powerful enough to keep you in the game. The great equalizer that allows you to exchange blows with this mechanical menace until only one remains. Fending off our latest killer allows Wily enough time to set his plans in motion, as he proceeds to make his grand escape to his underwater refuge, where preparations have been put in place to bring his new Skull Fortress online, rising up from the sea floor in all its skeletal glory. An open invitation between man and machine is now set, as our blue bomber follows his age-old rival in hot pursuit, touching down into his new oceanic base. With the opportunity presented, Wily takes full advantage of the situation, cranking the challenge up to the next level to send you spiraling through the motions once more, allowing fate to prey on your emotions. If it's not those shifty platforms that will terminate you, it's the underground tunnels laced in spike beds. So keep your reserves stocked up, because once you commit, you need to be in it to win it. There's plenty of mechanical contraptions ready to turn you to scraps, so be sure to take your time or you'll find yourself mixed in with the rest of those repurposed parts sent hurling across this junkyard. The game makes it feel like someone had a straight hard-on for pain, or perhaps they were just overcompensating elsewhere. Still, these are just my gripes, and the beauty of the Mega Man series is that there's so many entries spread across the franchise. There's something out there for everyone. You know, I would like to chalk this one up as one for the hardcores, but I think the excellent visuals and fantastic cutscenes gives me enough joy to power on through. Plus, Wily's zany contraptions never disappoint, because the moment you do reunite with the old doctor, he'll be eager to show off his latest and greatest masterpiece, the all-new Wily Machine 3. The Mach 3 is quite the unit, looking like a souped-up Mattel, but with a few sweet add-ons to make quick work of our hero. While Wily hides deep inside this beast, it quickly comes to life, boxing you out with little to no wiggle room to move about. If you've reached this point, then your instincts will play a role here, so be sure to hit him right between the eyes in classic Mega Man style. Just know Wily will be quick to retaliate, charging this baby up to hover atop, looking for the precise moment for a swift walloping. If you can stay planted good and center, you avoid the eventual pancaking, giving you room to do what you do best to bring old Wily here out of hiding. Once he regroups, it's time to focus in on the old fool, busting out that new enemy skill, the Screw Crusher, which is required to chip away at the cockpit. With enough damage dealt, Wily will soon panic, taking to those dual-mounted cannons to fire away aimlessly, hoping to deflect your attacks. Avoiding these cannon blasts will be the priority the remainder of this fight, sneaking in a headshot when the opportunity presents. This is easier said than done, especially with this being Wily's only weakness. Remember, you got finite supplies to get the job done, so timing is crucial. Just hold that buster cannon steady and fire when good and ready. With enough practice, you'll hit your target over and over till you soon find you've once again bested this old fool, leaving him cowering at your feet, begging for forgiveness. Well, that is until he does the thing, making his dramatic exit to fight another day. Well done, all in a day's work, team. With order restored to our world, Mega Man stands tall, reflecting on events which led to today. With each battle that draws forth, the margin of error becomes that much slimmer, as the inevitable thirst for power only causes more concerns on the home front. Just what will the future have in store for our hero? We must keep this in mind as we usher in the future of robotics, and with every day that passes, a new star is born whom will advance the field forward. And as those minds go to work, Mega Man will come face to face with his greatest challenge yet. The only question I have for you all now is if you're coming along with me for the ride. Till next time, gang, same rockin' time, same rockin' channel.